So welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Sound. Let me try again. So welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites with Tanzi and Michele. So it's so funny. This week, what we landed on is the power of being curious. And so we went through a number of quotes that landed, and the one that made Tanzi smile, and it's literally from my favorite person that I get quotes from now, Albert Einstein. So we're going to kick it off with that. And I just think about, I was telling Tanzi, I would love to have been able to hang out with him. Just spend a moment in the room with a man that did what he did and the quotes that he came up with. So anyway, he says, I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious. So see, she smiled again. So the thing about this one and where it all, the genesis of the power of curiosity, I was telling Tanzi, it's more and more as I've been coaching leaders recently, and it could be problem solving, it could be challenging relationships that people have, or coming into a situation that you just don't know, or you think you know, right? And maybe it's an awkward thing to step in, is this thread has been surfacing as I encourage leaders, and I'm going to tell you, I encourage myself at every moment, is to come from a place of curiosity and ask yourself, what am I curious about? And I think that there's an opportunity to unpack that a little bit more, to understand the value in coming from that place. So that's where we'll start. Tanzi, what's on your mind?
You know, a lot is on my mind. when I think about that topic, I think about, you know, the power, like just having a questioning attitude, right? And so one of the situations that come to mind for me is whenever I step into a new situation, I'm the person that wants to go. Like, I'm just like, go.
I execute.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Let's do it. Let's go. But what I've learned is it's really important to be curious about how we got here. To better understand why we do the things we do. And so what I've had to recognize is the value in going back to understand that questioning attitude, going back to understand things from a historical standpoint, so I can understand how we got here today and understand what next steps look like. So, you know, it's just really important.
So there's a few things that came to mind for me when you were talking about that. And one of them is because, you know, the role that you're in, the role that people have been in, the role that I've been in when I step in to help new people. And what happens a lot of times is we come in with fresh eyes.
Yes.
Right. And the fresh eyes have fresh ideas and everything else. And I think what you're calling out that I think is so powerfully important is that it's important for us to be curious about what happened before, be curious about the thinking that got people to where they are, the history around why decisions were made the way they were.
Yes.
And I'm going to say, and the other part of it is, from the curiosity, is to give acknowledgement and kudos to the thinking and the people that got you to the point that you are now. Because a lot of times what happens, and I'm guilty of this myself, I'll come in, fresh eyes, fresh ideas, and not be intentional about acknowledging the work that took place to get people where they are. So I agree with you on the curiosity thing. And I think the other part of it is, especially with what you're talking about, remember to acknowledge people for the work that got them to where they are today.
Yes, Michele, that's so true. I'm kind of in a similar situation where I need to do just that, is making sure to acknowledge the work that's been done by others, and just acknowledging others, period. Not only the work that they've done, but the work that the people, so that I'm able to bring everybody along into what looks like could be our next phase. So it's so important. You know, when you don't acknowledge people, you don't take time to do that, you could just lose people along the way. It's a really unfortunate situation.
Yeah. You know, the thing that came to mind for me just now, of course you don't know because you're not in my head, but when you were talking about acknowledging, bring them along the way, and we were talking about when you come in, my brain was like, we want to take, if we come into organizations or people, we want to take them to the next level. You know, we want it to be better, bigger, whatever it is, because it's for the organization, it's for the people on team, whatever that may be.
Right.
And so it's like when I think about, and this is where my brain went, so here we go. It's like building onto the levels of a house, right?
Yes.
And so you start with the ground floor, you build up to the second floor and that floor, and then you're going to build the third floor and that landing. And at each point, you have to stop and realize that if it wasn't for the people that built the ground floor and the first floor, you couldn't build the second floor.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, anyway, that's where my brain went from, the obviously power of curiosity. And then you've got to be curious about what came before you.
Absolutely. And not only that, Michelle, to your point, you got to be curious about how they built the ground floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got to be curious about that, because a lot of information that maybe went on and building that ground floor, you may be able to utilize for the next phase, or you may recognize that we may have an opportunity to step out and do it a little bit differently. But you can't understand what that is if you're not curious about what came before.
I totally agree with you. The other aspect to this and curiosity that's come up recently in work, it's around performance improvement. And it's around performance improvement in productivity, right? One way that we measure, are we efficient, right? Are our processes allowing our people to work as efficiently as they can?
Right.
And so instead of going to this punitive place, especially if measuring stuff like this is new to you, it's important to come from a place of curiosity, right? And so the thing that comes to mind for me is when I look at dashboards or anything like that, where you've got a sea of green or a sea of red or yellow, whatever it is, I start off by wondering, and this is what I encourage people to do, is what contributed to the people that are green more consistently? What contributed to that? What are they doing differently that other people are doing, right, that are red all the time? And then the other part of it is, if you're red all the time, what's getting in the way of you being green all the time? So it's not about going and telling somebody you need to get better, but coming from a place of curiosity, assuming the best intent, right? If they knew how to get better, they would probably be doing that. So I think that's the other power for me, is that we parking lot judgment, and we come from this curiosity place and curious to kind of unpack or understand better what's going on in all scenarios.
Yes, that's funny, because I also had a great example this week of a conversation that I had with someone, and my experience with this individual has always been no. Hey, can we do this? No. Hey, what do you think? No. Everything is just no. And so I finally just broke down and said, I want to understand, or what I said, I think what I said is, hey, it's been my experience that, no is what I get from you all the time. Help me understand what's getting in the way of yes. Like, how do I get to yes? What does that segment look like? And what I got back was, the person didn't really understand or didn't realize that they were saying no all the time. And so when we did inventory around no and, well, why not? And drilling down, there was just really nothing there. It's just always no. Just the first thing is no. And what we found out as we kept going is it really was just kind of based on fear.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that, because that's what came to mind for me, is the whole idea that, and this is the brain wants to take the path of least resistance. Okay. The thing that's the easiest thing to do. And the easiest thing to do is typically the way we're currently doing it for the brain, right? It's not new. We don't have to think about a new way to do something. It's like, driving a stick shift car, or driving in a new city, or going to a new grocery store.
Yes.
How many times do you actually go, you know what, new grocery store opened up, let me go there? When the old one, where everything is, you go up and down the aisles, you're really good. odds are, unless some crazy thing happens that they've got food at 50% off, you're not going.
You're not going.
Because that's not easy to do.
No, it's not.
But for you to unpack that and have somebody understand what's getting in the way, and it's fear, the change, whatever it may be, and them not to even be aware that it's happening, it's probably powerful for them to discover things that they didn't realize that were happening in the moment.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting moment. I'm not fully sure that person really got what was happening. I think it'll take a couple more conversations.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting in the moment. It was a learning moment for me as well.
Yeah. Well, and I think to your point, that if it comes up again, it's going to be easier for you to come from a place of curiosity and say, hey, what's your resistance? Where's this coming from? What's the barrier to yes?
Yes. Absolutely. I want yes all the time.
I'm not surprised about that. I'm not surprised about that. But your yes doesn't mean this is going to work, we're all in. Your yes is I'm open to trying.
Absolutely. Let's see what we can do. How about yes, and let's work on figuring out what the steps look like.
Yeah.
Not no, we can't do it.
Yeah. It's not possible. There's no way.
Nope. There's no way we can get it done. That's not what I want to hear. It's yes, how can we get it done? Or what ideas do you have? Or let's work on it together. I mean, that's what opens us up to new possibilities and new ways of doing things and things that we may have not thought about. It's got to be yes.
It's so funny. It's like it comes back to the name my company, right? It's Better Possibilities. And it came from that whole there's always an opportunity for it to get better.
Yeah.
Always. And so if we come with that mindset, right? That curiosity of what does better look like? What does a little bit better look like? What is it to do something differently? And is it possible? And I think that's where the whole power and curiosity comes from, because it has us exploring other options and not thinking that this is all there is.
Absolutely. You never know what you can do until you open the door. Yes.
It's just 3 letters. It's just 3 letters.
Just 3 letters.
I've got one more quote that I like, Danielle Laporte, and if knowledge is power, okay, and knowledge is what we need to move forward or anything else, then curiosity is the muscle. If knowledge is power, curiosity is the muscle. And so get curious, build your knowledge muscle.
Yeah.
So
you'd be surprised what you learn.
The other one. Yeah. Thank you for this. And so I encourage people to just get curious, and it could probably be a dance, like in the Olivia Newton-John one. Not getting physical, just get curious. No. Okay. You can't unhear that now. You just can't.
No, I can't unhear it.
So Tanzi, what are 1 or 2 things that you'd love people to walk away with around the power of being curious?
Open the door and just say yes.
Thank you. You're very just try. Dip your toe in the water.
Yes.
I appreciate that. I think for me is, and I'm going to go back to awareness, like the individual you were talking about. Be intentional around practicing curiosity if it's not second nature for you, because it's not for a lot of us. And so if you find yourself going quick to decisions or quick to answers, pause. Yes. And go, okay, what am I curious about? What do I like to know? What do I not know? And I think then you start shifting to, what did you call it? A questioning mindset or attitude?
Questioning attitude.
Questioning attitude. So I think that may open the door, if you will, to a different way of thinking about stuff. But I think the first step is awareness. When you're going quick to that stuff, to where there's an opportunity to understand a little bit more. To your point, you can't build a second floor. Well, you can if you don't know how the first one was built, but you may be putting something on a foundation that's not ready for it too.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I appreciate the time in the room with you. This has been Leadership Soundbites with Tanzi and Michele. And so please like, share, subscribe. Until next time. Thank you.
Good night.